Chapter 11, read JSON from file, add, remove and update the fields in the JSON. So let me start this chapter. So this is the karate session project, and this karate session project we have created in the previous sessions. We have the feature files as well as we have the runners. With the help of this runner, we are executing the test cases. Whenever we want to execute any of the feature files with respect to the test case, then we are going to provide the name of the feature file inside this karate test package, and it helps us to execute the test cases. Now what we are going to do is, if we talk about a post request, so whenever we are invoking the post request, whatever the payload related to a request which we are sending it, we are sending it in or from these feature files. Here is the JSON, and if you talk about a JSON in the multiple lines, we are adding the JSON from here itself, from this feature files. But this is again a not good approach. Whenever we are talking about the JSON request, we need to save the JSON request in or inside the JSON file set. And then we are going to read the JSON files. We are going to read the JSON from the JSON file, and then we are going to pass it. So let's do one thing. Let's create first a feature file. Right click, say new, and here is a feature file option. We can provide this a name as a JSON file. We can say a request dot feature is an extension of the file. We need to say test JSON file, and here is a scenario. We are going to say a read JSON file. Now we have a feature name as well as a scenario. So what we are going to do is, we are going to create a test as a package inside this particular Java. So right click, say new. We are going to have the package options. We are going to say this is a data, and inside this particular data package we are going to add a JSON file. So let's do one thing first commit here inside this post request. So we are having this JSON which we are going to pass it as a payload. Now right click on this data. We are going to have a file. We are going to say post request. We are going to have a payload dot JSON. Now we can add the JSON file here. So we have added the JSON inside this post request payload JSON. So let's commit here inside this JSON file request. Now we are going to read the file. First we are going to have the steps which we have written it here inside this post request feature. So let's copy these steps, commit here inside this particular JSON file request which we have created it. So instead of adding or instead of sending this payload a request along or reading from this here as a string, we are going to read this post request payload. So first we are going to define a variable. Let's have this a variable. We are saying a post request, a payload. We are going to give the name is equal to, we are going to have a one method provided by the granted to us, which is this a read. So read method help us, or read keyword help to read the file. So if you talk about this post request payload, we are going to read this JSON. So whenever we want to read it, we need to provide the path. But if you talk about this particular JSON which is present inside the data, but at this moment this JSON file request feature, so this file request dot feature is present inside the karate test. It means first we need to go from this karate test package to this Java, and then we can move inside. So whenever we want to move from a current level to the one level up, then we are saying dot dot slash. It means we have moved it here to the Java. Now we are going to give the package name which is this data. Inside this data we are having this we are going to say post request payload. What is the feature file or what is the JSON name? This is a .json as an extensions. Now with the help of this statement, we are reading the information, we are reading the JSON inside this post request payload variable. Instead of passing a JSON hard coded, we are going to read the information from this post payload.json. So what we are going to do is, whenever you are talking about an email address, whenever we are sending the information, we need to make this as a unique, otherwise this post request will not work. So let's commit here inside this JSON file request. Now we are going to invoke it. Whenever we want to invoke it, we need to go to here to the run file. First we need to change the name of the feature file. Right now it is a post request. Now we can say JSON file, and here is a request dot feature. Now it is going to execute it, run, and it is going to invoke the feature file, which is this JSON file request.feature. First, it is going to read the JSON from this JSON, and then it is going to send a post call as well. So this test case, this scenario got successful, is passed. Now when we scroll it little down, we can see we are having this JSON and it is getting it successful. So if we talk about at this moment, whenever we are performing anything, we need to make this email address as a unique. Then instead of coming it here inside this particular payload JSON, we can update this field here inside a JSON file request or feature. And then how are we going to update it? Then we are saying we are going to have this post request payload dot, what is the field name? The field name is the email address, and then we are going to have this, we can say in the dot 123 at example, and here is a test. So we have updated the value, which is an email, and then it is going to invoke it. So whenever you want to invoke it, right click and say run. It is going to update the value which is present inside this email with the help of this a new email which we are passing it. Now when we scroll it little down, if we see it here, we must have a different email address which we are sending it. Now we can see it is also getting it updated as well. In case if you want to add a new field, then we are having a option related to a set help us to add a new field. Take an example of, we are saying we want to add a new field. We need to provide the object. This object is holding all the JSON. We are saying dot, what field name you want to add it. We are going to say we are going to add it as a first name. Let's have the first name. We are saying Inderpal is the first name. Now let's go and invoke this. So right click and say run. It is going to add a new field with the help of the name, which is this first name, and then it is going to update the values, or it is going to add the new field. So this test case is getting it failed. The reason is, so let's first check whether this first name is getting it appended or added in the JSON or not. So we can see we are having this first name. This test case failed because we have not updated, or we have not added a new email address, because this should be unique every time whenever we are creating a post request as well. So in this way we are adding a new field. In case if you want to remove a field which exists inside this post request payload inside this JSON, take an example of, if you want to remove a ID, then we are going to have a one keyword which is the remove keyword. With the help of this remove, we able to remove the fields as well. So let's provide a unique email address. Now right click, test case executed successful. So when we scroll it tilted down, so we don't have the email address because we have used a remove keyword to remove the ID as well. So at this moment we are adding a field with the help of the set. We are removing the field with the help of the remove field. In case if you want to add a JSON, then you can also add it. So first we need to define the variable. Take an example of, this is address. Address is a field which we are going to add it, or which we have defined it, and inside this particular address we are going to have an object which is this JSON object. Take an example of, we are saying city, and the name of the city is New Delhi. Let's add it, which is the New Delhi, and then we are going to have another field. This time we are saying we are going to add it a country as well. So let's have this country. This time we are saying India as a country. So we have added this as an object. Can we add this field, and this field is going to act as a object for us? Yes, we can add it. Let's commit here. So we are going to add, how are we going to add it? We are going to say set post request. So what is the field name? We are going to say address is the field name. Right now we can take it out. Now we are going to have the same address here. So whenever you want to make it successful, you need to make a change in email address, right, and run, and it is going to invoke the feature file with the help of the email or the JSONs which we are passing it at this moment. So we can see it is getting it successful. So when we scroll it little down, let's scroll it little down. This time we are having the address field. This address field is nothing but an object which is having a two fields. In case if you want to add a array instead of adding this as an object, you want to add it as an object array, array object of an array, then you can also do it. So let's do one thing. Now we did it, we have added this as a opening square bracket and a closing square bracket. So the opening and a closing square bracket are representing to the array, and this opening curly brace and a closing curly brace is going to represent the JSON object. Now let's go and invoke this. Let's make this a unique email address. Right click and say run. It is going to invoke this particular JSON again, and then it is going to add a new object, new field address as an array. So we can see it is getting it successful. So let's scroll it little down. So here if we scroll it right, we can see we are having this array, but this time it is a object of arrays as well, array of objects. Now we are having the two fields, city and the country as well. In case if you want to update a object, if you want to update this city, so instead of having the New Delhi, if you want to update it, that you can also do it. So we are going to use a same value, the same keyword, which is this post request. So let's have this post request payload. We are going to use a set keyword. So whenever you want to update, first what you are going to update it, we are going to update this address field, because this city is present inside this address field. We are saying address, and if you talk about this address, this is array of objects. So whenever you are going to represent, you are going to represent the array by the opening square bracket and the closing square bracket. What is the index value at this point of time? The index value is at that 0th position, because we only having a one object. Then we are saying we are going to have the city. What is the value which you are going to update it? We are going to update a city from New Delhi to Pune. Now if we go and invoke this, this will be passed. Right click and say run. So this address at this moment we are adding it New Delhi, but after adding the New Delhi we are again updating to the Pune as well, which is having the city as well. So now we can see it here. So the test case got successful, it passed. So when we scroll it down, we must have some value here related to a Pune. Now we are getting this as a Pune, which is the city. So in this way we can add and update the fields whenever we want to read any JSON file. Then we are going to use, or any file which is having a JSON or anything, a text as well, then you are going to use a read. We are going to assign the values, and that is going to be assigned in a variable, and then you can use it as well. So that's it in this chapter.